So, I was at home, just not really doing much. Had some free time, felt a little jittery, and decided to just go for a walk. And there's just this thought that's kind of been like circulating around my head the last like week or so. And I guess this is just me trying to help it find its way out in like a stream of consciousness type of format. But you know, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. If you ask me, there's always a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. But lately I've been noticing a sort of pattern just in the people that I run into on a day-to-day basis, friends and family that I talk to, and extended friends of friends, family of family. And there's a pattern that I'm noticing with just how people are like viewing everything in life right now. And I'm noticing that a lot of the people who about a decade or so ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, a lot of those people that were getting like heavy into like conspiracy theories and stuff like that, and digging down their own little rabbit holes of whatever they were looking up on YouTube, whatever little YouTube dark little underweb they, migrated themselves to. And we went through a period of time. I say we because I was definitely in that group of people who delved into a ton of conspiracy theories about a decade ago or so. And I'm noticing that a lot of the people that were doing it at that time and ran into these troves and troves of information circulating the internet at the time that it did, before a lot of it started being like filtered out, is that group of people was heavily ostracized. And the funny thing is, that group of people is also, we're not the type of people to rub it in or say, I told you so, or beg for an apology. It's not us. But curiosity definitely killed the cat. Family members, friends, people that like you loved and trusted, in my case even like teammates and such, you'd try to have these talks with people that you related and talked with on a daily basis, before running into all this information and thinking that these people would like at least hear what you're saying and like look into it for themselves. And it didn't happen. I'm not gonna say it didn't happen. There were the ones and twos. There were people who definitely like, took it upon themselves to like go learn what they learned on their own. And they'd always circle back and be like, man, like, I wanted to like kind of debunk that. So I went, looked at some stuff, and I didn't know this, or that. And I watched a close friend of mine, and the way that his father reacted to him telling him things about PDF file elites and ritual sacrifice and things of that sort. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and like not only did he kind of like dismiss him, but he like went overboard with the dismissal. It wasn't just dismissal, it was like accusatory. Like, he got to a point where he said, like, you're always so worried about this. Were you some type of creep, And it came to a point where, we kind of like, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody who went through that experience, but I'm pretty sure there's more people who went through that exact experience. But I know I went through a very large period of depression over that. And not just that, like, there was other things that happened in my life, but feeling like you couldn't talk to people or being scared to make new connections based on how people might react to your beliefs and stuff. And then not even knowing whether or not you want to hang out with more people because you don't know what they're into, what their morals are, what they believe in. And I felt like that overload of information, coupled with being ostracized and in some cases demonized, kind of leads to like a depressive headspace. Like, it's like almost unavoidable. Humans feel a need to relate on a certain level. We're a communal species. So being outcast in that way, for me, I know I had to have like a really large rebuilding period where I had to relearn who I was. I had to like go back before, all of this, just when I was a kid, like, what did I want to do? What was it that I wanted to be? Like, how did I want to do it? How did I think? What were my favorite activities? And I started getting back into stuff like that. And that's how I started getting into music and drawing again and fitness and just all of the stuff that I was like really interested in and like getting and doing. And like, I just started like picking up new things to do later on in life. And I'll be 33 this year. I want to say I picked up skating at 27. So I've now been longboarding for almost 6 years. And at this point, it's almost second nature. I'm better at skating than I am at walking. And none of that would have happened. That period of relearning myself and rebuilding myself wouldn't have happened without me going through that stress, so to say, And I think about that, and I think about the people that I see around me who were privy to that kind of information back then and went through that same deal. And in some cases, they just went through other shit that they had to rebuild from and relearn themselves. And it's starting to feel like I see a wave of people all relearning themselves and learning new skills and learning new hobbies and learning all of these things that they really want to do. And then at the same time, there's a group of people who are just now finding out all of this information. You see where I'm going with this? Like, all of these millions of people that have now gotten interested in and are starting to like now see the scope of the things that their family and friends were trying to tell them all these years ago when they called them crazy. Now that they see that it's actually somewhere going on in the world. Anything in your worst imagination that you can do to a person is going on somewhere in the world right now. And at mass. So they're going to have to all go through processing that stress the same way we did. And it was a lot more of them than us. There's gonna be a lot, and you know, I see it. There's a lot of scared, fearful, depressed people in the world right now. But if the pattern that I'm seeing is correct, in about 10 years, they'll all find themselves. But we're gonna go through a rough little period with these people as they try to process that stress. But I think on the other side of that, we're looking at something like a renaissance. Because you'll have all these people all at the same time across humanity bouncing back from depression. I don't know, maybe it's a super simple thought, but I just feel like it's just what's happening. And, you know, I don't know what was at the end of whatever rabbit holes you guys went to, but for me, every rabbit hole that I went to pointed straight back to Jesus Christ. It pointed back to where I started as a kid. And now I feel like a prodigal son because I was raised Christian. I was raised in the church. But, you know, things happen in church, you know. And when you're a kid and you see things happen in church and you see, you know, that, you know, some quote unquote people of God aren't always on the up and up, it can have a bit of an effect on me. Hello. But I should have brought my bottle of water. It's dry out here. There's a water fountain over here at the little park area. But anyway, like I was saying, where was I? Beautiful family back there. Kind of threw me off my train of thought. But that's, that's the thing with not having bullet points and doing these stream of consciousness videos, But yeah, another layer to that is that in order for the group of people that was in like the awakening period, I'll call it, that I was in, was that we were finding videos and reading information that came from people who had learned about this stuff in like the 70s and 80s, 90s, So there was already a group of people who went through this. But they went through this in an era, like it's like a wave, right? So you got a group of people that like their family might have had some like books, or they might have been like close to a library that might have had some information or whatever the case may be, but they came across this information and it was in a period of time where there wasn't really a way to like share all of that information. And I'm pretty sure they had, meetups or whatever they did back then. I don't know. I'm not old enough to know. But they had ways of spreading their information. But however they were going to spread their information was going to have to be some type of word of mouth type of deal, whether it be, over the phone or in person in a large group meetup. But that in no way would have ever been as big as when, all of these people who had compiled all this information were able to, boom, release it once, YouTube was a thing. And honestly, that was probably some of the first stuff on YouTube, and we were just way too young to even be able to get a hold of that. So there was probably another wave in between that. So I'm, just as the technology trickles down, we learn more and more about what's going on. But then we learn how to arm ourselves against it, is what I believe. Oh, so I remember where I was. I was talking about growing up in the church and seeing different things. Yeah, I was like, I had some experiences, and now, growing up, I understand like my experiences that I had were all with people with evil spirits in them, and they weren't people of God. They were just posing. Not all of them, but some of them, And now that I'm, older, wiser, and I can see stuff like that, and I can discern for myself, a lot more makes sense. I'm always thankful. I thank God every day for my stepfather who raised me since I was 3 years old. But a lot of the habits he kept were very, very serene, very godly habits. And I've picked up a few of them. And one thing I always thought was cool is he used to always write his prayers. He had like a prayer, like his diary was like a prayer diary. Like he wrote all of his prayers. He probably still does this to this day. He's like one of my favorite people to just call and chat with. We never do, but when we do, it's always awesome. But yeah, that was like the coolest habit that I thought he had. He used to always just write his prayers in a diary. He wrote all his prayers. And he would always read the Bible. He was very well read in the Bible. He is. And he's always, I think I might have seen him in church maybe like 8 times in my entire life. And I always wondered as a kid, like, why, like, he didn't really go to church. And he would always say, like, oh, you know, I'm spiritual, I'm not really religious. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't understand it back then. But he always stressed to me growing up that my personal relationship with God was more important than church. And the older I got, the more I realized, that's the end all be all. Your personal relationship with God matters way more than being in whatever building with whatever people. You know? And I'm a firm believer of a few things. One, that we were all created with some sort of gift to give back to humanity. And 2, that we all have some secret individual covenant with God that only we know about. There's either something or a list of things that we know we shouldn't be doing, and that we know we need to change about ourselves. And I promise you, when you walk that walk and you do what you know he wants you to do, things change. Things change. From the inside out. I promise you, anything going on in your life right now can be fixed from the inside out. It starts with how you think. Once you can change how you think, you can change how you speak and act. Once you change how you speak and act, you can learn to be consistent with it. And once you learn to be consistent with it, you can do anything. And then, I guess that might just be the point I was trying to get across. But I want to know about the rest of you. I want to know what was at the end of your rabbit hole. I think that might be the title of this video once it's all said and done and edited. What was at the end of your rabbit hole? You know? Because I swear, for me, like, I jumped from conspiracy theory to conspiracy theory. And the way my brain works and the way my brain connects dots and patterns, once I start seeing common themes, the question is no longer what is going on. The question is, Why is it going away? And when you go looking for why it's going away, and you see what the other side believes with conviction, enough conviction to sacrifice a baby, that much conviction, you know, when you see what they believe, I feel like the only logical conclusion is that the devil is real and God is real. And even further than that, when you go past what these people believe and all of that, once you stomach that, you get past that mental, spiritual hump. Because the truth is, most people in the world at their core are good people. And the problem with good people is good people very often underestimate how bad people are. And bad people are very bad. I'd say more bad than you can imagine, but I can imagine. I've seen it. And for me, the end of my rabbit hole, the point where I ended, and I was like, okay, this is the grand cover-up. This is what's being hid. This is it. All of this other stuff going on, all of this other moving wheels and turning cogs and whatever the case may be, because they say, what do they say? They say, once you tell one lie, you have to just keep telling lie after lie after lie after lie after lie after lie in order to cover up that lie. And the lie is believing that Jesus Christ isn't the Son of God. The lie is for us to believe that he didn't come back. But I challenge you guys to look into, just go on YouTube and search the millennial reign of Christ. And there's a group of people who believe that Jesus did come back. He came right back. And then he ruled for 1,000 years, the way the Bible said he would. And that during that period of human history was what we now look back at as the quote-unquote Renaissance. But it lasted for 1,000 years of human history where Jesus was king of the world and humans achieved unimaginable heights. and society was at the highest it's ever been and the highest it will ever be until we experience heaven. And I don't want to explain too much more into that because I'm sure you guys will dig for yourselves if it's interesting, if you're the type of person I'm talking to in the first place. But that was my landing. And if anyone landed somewhere else, I want to know where you landed. And I think it's funny. I dated a girl early last year, and I thought she was an amazing person. I still think she's an amazing person, but like it seemed like the one area, which is a major area, the one area we butt heads on is like legitimately how we viewed life and what's going on with the world. And my thought process is so far above any left-right paradigms or politics in general. It's all fake. It's literally all fake. I mean, it's like the fact that people get so wrapped up in it and don't see that it's all fake. It's bothersome, but I understand it. Like, it's a conditioning, but it's a conditioning that like my brain was designed to never buy into, and I appreciate that. Thank God for it every day. But people have become so polarized that even at a time like this where we see the scope of evil in full, I still see groups of people trying to stay in their comfort bubble and isolate that evil into left versus right. Stop. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. Those people are talking heads, celebrities. Stop. Unplug. Stop watching the news. Get the fuck away from the TV. Go outside. What are you experiencing day to day? That's what matters. We need to get back to all of the things that make people. And first and foremost, that's freedom. So stop being trapped. Jesus Christ freed us thousands of years ago. You're free. Stop letting people control you. But I'm on almost back to the house. So, y'all drink some water, pray up, read your Bibles.